I shall.
A moment, please. I feel I should explain myself.
Who is that? Oh, it's Aloth.
About my episode in the catacombs. There's something I should have told you earlier.
Arismital says, so tell me now. Aloth clasps his hands together, slowly massaging a knuckle with his thumb. I meant no harm. I thought I could keep it to myself, that when we resolve the matter of your soul, you would also address my problem.
I also have an awakened soul. But unlike yours, mine is a presence that shares my senses and my skin, making herself manifest at the most unwelcome times.
Aha, so that's the reason why you were like two different personalities when we first met back in Gilded Vale. So, the one responsible for insulting the townsfolk, it was your awakened soul. Aloth closes his eyes and grits his teeth. His lips quiver and twitch with the vestiges of some internal debate. Several seconds later, he opens his eyes again. They're watery and bloodshot. Wait, watery and bloodshot? Are you crying?
I'm sorry. I've tried to learn to control Isilmir. I've gotten stronger, but so has she.
Aloth shakes his head. So, the awakened soul is a woman, a she. Interesting. Such a dirty-mouthed woman this Isilmir is. Arismital says, why didn't you say something sooner?
I learned to keep her a secret a very long time ago. Those with awakened souls are shunned, mistrusted. And after your experience with Meowald, I'm certain you can see why. You need to be careful.
Aloth looks up at you. Arismital says, tell me about Isilmir.
Artless, uncouth, a creature of rash impulses and feeble faculties. She wags her impertinent tongue when she should listen.
Aloth winces, his expression rippling between control and chaos.
Aye, this one's fit to boil. Hard to get this gaff over anything tisn't to do with books and spell speak.
Shut up, woman. I'm speaking with Aloth. Aloth's face flickers with a sly grin. Aloth grimaces, running his hands through his hair. I have none of her memories. Berath spared me that much, but her coarse manners and intolerable ill-speak suggest a provincial from a very, very long time ago. She tends to surface a hair's breadth from conflict, when the fuse has burned down and teeth are on edge. And when she shows up, she doesn't stop to gauge a situation, she just acts. Arismital says she seems reckless. Aloth says, that's it, exactly. You recall the way she goaded those villagers in Gilded Vale? She doesn't think, and she doesn't back down. And trying to suppress that has been my problem for years. Dang it. So it was Isilmir's fault that I killed those villagers. I hate this woman already. Can we get rid of her? Arismital says, is this going to be a problem?
Merely an annoyance. Although...
Aloth purses his lip into a thin, crooked line. He lowers his voice and clasps his hands behind his back. Minute twitches, Minute twitches and spasms along his arms betray his fidgeting.
Defiance Bay is said to have an entire institution dedicated to the study and cure of soul-related ailments. Since our journeys have already brought us to the city, perhaps we could speak with someone there.
Arismital says, if it's helpful to you, we'll go.
Thank you. This has been a great burden.
Aloth's shoulders loosen by the slightest fraction. Arismital says, let's talk about something else. Aloth looks at you with quiet attentiveness. How may I be of service? Miss Arismital says, I'd like to know more about Isilmir. Aloth raises an eyebrow, such as? Arismital says, when did she awaken? Aloth says, my father was a strict man. He expected the best from his only child, and he didn't tolerate failure. Aloth's face becomes drawn. At times, he could be rather adamant, particularly when he'd been drinking. Isilmir manifested on one such occasion. To be honest, I don't remember the specifics, only that he was more careful with me after that. More careful with you, your father? After Isilmir appeared? What happened? Did Isilmir threaten your father? With violence and death? Arismital says, you said that you'd learned to hide her a long time ago. Aloth says, my mother instructed me to keep her a secret after she first emerged. She feared that knowledge of my awakening would render me an outcast. Even though Isilmir proved useful against my father, I trusted my mother's advice, and I have since come to see the wisdom behind it. Myrwald is an extreme example, but one that I can relate to more and more each year. Arismital says, could I talk directly to her? Aloth gives you a taut frown. Her usurpations are uncomfortable enough. I'm not eager to invite her into my consciousness more than necessary. Arismital says, let's discuss something else. Aloth says, indeed. Find an expert on awakening somewhere in Defiance Bay. Two-sided, okay. Weeds grow thick and full, untroubled by the passage of kith. We are in first fire, I see. Temple of Voidica, so this is in ruins. What happened to the temple that turned it into something like this, a rubble? Winalin grapple win.
All these circling feet heading nowhere.
Why are you so grumpy, Durans? It reads Vailian Embassy. Vailian soldier says you have business with the republics. Welcome to the Vailian Embassy.
I shall be discreet.
Galven Ragged. Mention the name Ragged in Eir Glanfath, and you'll be told stories of a glorious freedom fighter, an Orlan who uses tactical savvy and battle training to protect the Glanfathan from the encroaching evil of the invaders in the Deerwood. Ask someone in the Deerwood about him, and you'll hear angry retellings of the exploits of an underhanded, dirty fighting Orlan who terrorize Deerwooden citizens. This conflict is what legends are built on, and Galven Ragged is the stuff of legends. The Broken Stone War began from a misunderstanding between the Glanfathans, who lived in the Deerwood, and the Idiran colonists who were moving in. Tensions were already high between the two groups, as the Idirans claimed land of the Glanfathans. As the Idirans claimed land the Glanfathans said they already owned, added to the Glanfathans taken and forced into slavery by the Idirans, and it was only a matter of time before something snapped and sent the two groups to war. There was the occasional skirmish or fight between isolated groups, but no real conflict until the Broken Stone War. Whether intentional or not, Idiran farmers clearing land for their crops knocked over and destroyed one of the ancient menhirs that dot the countryside. The Glanfathans, who revered the ancient structures in the Deerwood, reacted swiftly and violently, led by a particularly fanatical Fang by the name of Ragged. While the war was short-lived, and the Glanfathans were ultimately not the victors, Ragged and his forces were able to eliminate a significant number of colonists. After the war ended, Ragged was appointed the Galven, or leader, of the Glanfathan tribes. His leadership skills and prowess in battle earned him the respect of all the tribes of Eir Glanfath. Because all the tribes were unified behind him, he was able to move and coordinate their warriors in a way that organized them into such an efficient team. The Idiran colonists lived in fear of his next attack. His name and reputation spread through both lands. Over 2 years following the Broken Stone War, Ragged and his forces, using deception, misinformation, and straightforward guerrilla tactics, killed hundreds. The remaining earls sent word to the Ferkonian, saying something must be done before more nobility is killed. But Ragged continues to terrorize the colonists, and it seems the campaign will never end. That is, until he encountered Edrang Hadret. These postings show current prices for a range of commodities, and they track the running exchange rate for the Vailian luce. Vailian diplomats being assigned to the embassy in Defiance Bay is an immense honor. Local politics only matter if they disrupt the flow of trade. The republics will more than welcome any of Defiance Bay's animancers if animancy were banned. What passes for Vailian cuisine in the city is pathetic. Vincent Agosti.
Hail and well met.
Vincent Agosti says, "What can this humble servant of the Republic do for you?" Arismital says, "Tell me about the Vailian republics." Vincent Agosti says, "They are rich in all ways, in wealth, in style, in culture. If you were to go to the republics, you would not want to live. Why would you? The people are beautiful and charming. I am here because the Songreta Ducala wishes it. But when my appointment is done, I will be on the first ship out, and I will sing from here to Celona." So Celona is a place in the Vailian republics. So the ring that I got from the corpse, it was made by a Vailian wizard. Vincent Agosti says, "If there's nothing else, I must return to my duties." Arismital says, "What do you do here?" Vincent Agosti says, "As the Vailian ambassador, my job is to ensure trade with the Deerwood remains strong and profitable." Really? Arismital says, "Farewell."
And what does the flame reveal?
Selected correspondences of gift-bringer Eden. Sing, O ocean waves, of Ondra's sorrow, of her unrequited love for the unattainable moon. Sing of the ocean's sorrow, so that we may forget our own. Each day, the tides reenact Ondra's longing for the great moon. The waters reach out at high tide, yearning for the heavenly body, only to slump into the low tide when the moon proves unattainable. You asked me once why I loved Ondra so dearly. How could I go from a life on dry land to being a devotee to the goddess of the oceans? I sing of the ocean's sorrow so that I may forget my own. It is Ondra's message that speaks to my heart. I have devoted my life to helping others discard painful memories, for that is the gift Ondra gave me. When I lost my young daughter, my wife and I were inconsolable until a gift-bearer offered to take my toddler's toys and cast them into the deepest waters. Truth be told, I and the other gift-bearers I know have never even spoken to Ondra. She is largely silent, and when she does speak, she uses floods and tidal waves instead of words. But we sing of the ocean's sorrow so that others may forget theirs. Ondra's story, the story of desire unanswered, actually matters to people like you and me. Magran cannot steer you to victory over sadness. Elia cannot force joy. down a crying throat. Only Ondra can give us the strength to persevere when life seems without worth. And that is the answer to your question regarding why I love my goddess so dearly.
I'll have this open in no time. It's done.
Spread across the table are the blueprints of an in-progress trade deal between a merchant company from the Republics and a Deerwooden Werwool collective.
I'll handle this. It's done.
Obsidian lamp figurine. This lamp seems to swallow light, showing no reflection upon its surface. It's cold to the touch, and when held to one's ear a quiet susurrus can be heard. The lamp is sealed with a piece of cork on which a single rune is inscribed. The flag depicts the symbol of the Vailian Republics, a ship sailing beneath 5 radiant stars. Noble says, "Let's get dinner at the Charred Barrel tonight." Vailian diplomat says, "I cannot. The trade agreement with Fleetbreaker Castle fell through. Need to come up with some revisions by morning." Noble says, "We need more reasonable people in Defiance Bay." The legacy, when will it end? It is imperative that we find a solution to this catastrophe. These animancy hearings seem to be going nowhere. Animancy isn't the problem, it's the solution to all our ills. It takes a smooth tongue to solve problems, doesn't it? You mean ass licking? These days it's rare to find folks who will do so much for strangers. Justiciar says, "What is it?" Arismital says, "Where are the mad kept in Defiance Bay?" Justiciar says, Only place around here that takes them in is Brackenbury Sanitarium. I've heard they can treat your soul there, take the madness away, but there's just as many stories coming out of that place that'll chill your blood. There's a man, if you want to call him that, Ethel Moir there. He's head warden. If you're visiting or checking yourself in, he's the one to talk to. Arismital says, I'm looking for a neighborhood with a tower. It's near a cemetery. Justiciar says, best you stop looking then. The place you want is Heritage Hill. You can see the tower over the district walls out that way. The Justiciar points to the northwest, but something happened there. They don't let people in anymore, and none of the knights want to be posted anywhere close to it. Steer clear if you know what's good for ya. Arismital says farewell. Heritage Hill sounds like a dangerous place. Let's check it out. The Crucible Knights weren't always soldiers. We used to be blacksmiths, says Justiciar. Only the best soldiers get to patrol the palace. Won't be long before we're a formal knighthood.
And what does the flame reveal?
Commoner says it's not right. Regular folk like us should be allowed to attend the hearings. Commoner says, you do know there's not enough space in there for everybody, right? All I'm saying is, where's our representative who's speaking for the common folk? No one. You have to speak for yourself. Because assume the elites don't care about you. Even the honest ones are outnumbered by the crooked ones. Yeah, I guess it's just unfortunate. A call for interested patrons. The Atmetsden Expedition Hall pledges competent, proven men and women towards the profitable venture of your choosing. Interested parties are asked to seek out Wenan within the Expedition Hall. Wenan Expedition Hall, got it. Briar says, another ship lost, a Violian merchant vessels. Dash against the merciless rocks, no survivors. Still, Ondra's beacon lies dormant, its doors barred to all. The waters claim many souls this season. Even the most daring of adventurers must keep up their strength. For fresh, filling bread, see Hemya of Gilded Vale, fine deerwood bread made from fine deerwood grain. A shocking theft. The Hall of Revealed Mysteries reports the loss of a revered artifact. A reward is offered to those aiding in the recovery of this most sacred relic. The hearings on animancy proceed at the Ducal Palace. Little progress is reported. We trust our good Duke will come to measured wise conclusion. A local lad is reported missing. Those with information as to the location of the boy Darin should seek to Oda in Ondra's gift. Darin got it. Citizens report mysterious and distressing wailing in the vicinity of the Ondra's gift lighthouse. We advise visitors to keep clear of the area until a cause is determined. Wailing? Messengers from Gilded Vale bring shocking news. Lord Raedric VII, loyal Thine of the Deerwood, has been slain. He is succeeded by Kolsh, last surviving relative of the Raedric line. Remember, Kolsh, you owe me. Stalwart sends a plea for assistance. They've been attacked by ogres and fear they could be sacked any day. A call for interested patrons.
Let's see what lies this way.
A noble says the common folk don't appreciate the sacrifices we've made to try and end this. What sacrifices? I'm curious. Tell me. No, it wasn't sarcastic. I'm really curious. What have you been doing to end this whole catastrophe? Commoner says, if you need an inn for the night, Goose and Fox has the softest beds, the best ale.
Nice and quiet.
A noble says Defiance Bay will lead the Deerwood into a new era. Justiciar says House Doimenel still think it's the law in the city. Justiciar says, joining the Crucible Knights is a high honor. Dunstan says gifted, an armor as you'll find in the entire city. Justiciar Altmar says, "What business brings you to the keep?"
Good day to you.
Altmar gives you an appraising eye. Judging by the scars on his face, he's lucky to be able to do that much. Every day we get more from the hinterlands pouring into Defiance Bay. Keeps us busy on the watch, it does. You look like you recently arrived yourself. Arismital says, "Who are you?" Arismital has some balls. Entering this place, I think this is the Crucible Knight's Keep. It was written like that right on the map. He enters this as a stranger, as a nobody, and then starts asking, "Who are you? Who are you?" When this justiciar in front of him asking, making statements about Aris' presence here. Arismital says, "Who are you?" Justiciar Altmar says, "A soldier of the Crucible Knights, and proud of it. I help keep everything running at the keep, so that Commander Cleaver can focus on more important matters." Altmar says, "Looking for something, or just knocking the dirt off your boots?" "Tell me about Commander Cleaver." Arismital says, "What goes on in Crucible Keep?" Altmar says, "This is the headquarters of the Crucible Knights, so it's where we store arms and armor as well as where many of our soldiers bunk." Commander Cliver is in the back, making plans as usual. Altmar scratches a scarred cheek. "You'll find the forge at the west end of the building, along with our master smith Dunstan. There is also a shrine to the golem, if you're the praying type." Arismital says, "Tell me about the Crucible Knights." Justiciar Altmar says, "We are the defenders of Defiance Bay. We're not exactly a formal knighthood, but don't tell Commander Cliver I said that." Altmar grins. "We were the first organized militia to oppose Aidiran rule, and today we're the largest force in the city. Our soldiers undergo years of combat training, and our officers are required to have their souls read by that critter out in Dunried Row." Arismital says, "What's this about Dunried Row?" Altmar says, "Just a requirement of the Crucible Knights, so the higher-ups know there's nothing messy built in your soul's past." Altmar widens his stance. "Keeping the ranks pure is fine by me. I just wish they were more careful in hiring their ciphers." Arismital says, "What's wrong with their ciphers?" Altmar regards you a moment, his expression souring. "I'll say it plain. Orlans aren't suited for the work. Hostilities in their nature, and it's hard for them to overcome it." "You've done a good enough job of it, maybe, but that just means you put the effort in. Most don't." Altmar crosses his arms. "All I'm saying is that these ciphers ought to be supervised by other kith. That's reasonable enough, isn't it?"
The better part of valor.
justiciars were responsible for the safety of every person in the city. Novitiate says we defended Defiance Bay back in Duke Hadrat's day. I hope I got promoted to Justiciar soon. Wheeler says we need to deal with Heritage Hill. Justiciar says duty and spirit. The Knights of the Crucible carries herself with a solemn demeanor. Wheeler, the Justiciar's gaze flicks over you too briefly before returning to the novitiates gathered in the training area. If this is about patrols, my novitiates are already stretched to their limit. Between the refugee influx and the mess at Heritage Hill, I simply don't have any units to spare. After a pause, Wheeler looks over at you again. I'm sorry, was there something else you need? Adismittal says, is something wrong at Heritage Hill? Wheeler lowers her voice. What isn't wrong is the real question. A whole district of walking flesh-eating corpses. We sealed the area 2 months ago, just after I lost one of my finest commanders there. And yet this is the second guard rotation to disappear. There are already enough rumors about the place floating around the keep without my soldiers whispering about these disappearances. Wheeler shakes her head. I'd just as soon abandon the district, but if those monsters should find a way out... Adismittal says, tell me about Heritage Hill. Wheeler says, used to be one of the most prestigious districts in Defiance Bay, but a few months ago the residents all went mad, started eating each other, and anything else that had the bad luck to wander into the district. I've never seen anything like that. The residents turned into cannibals. Interesting. A few months ago? Wheeler says, now every novitiate that stands guard there, everyone that comes back anyway, talks of stench of the grave and the groans of unspeakable horrors. Wheeler holds up one plate-clad finger. The why and the how are questioned for the animancers. I've sealed the districts in hopes of containing whatever happened there. It seems to be working for now. If there's nothing else, I must attend to my duties. Adismittal says, what do you do here? Wheeler says, I'm in charge of the keep's novitiates. I'm responsible for their training and patrol assignments. She nods at the group gathered in the training room. They are good soldiers, and they've been quick to adapt to new challenges. Adismittal says, you said earlier that something was wrong at Heritage Hill? Okay, the same texts. Adismittal says, I could look into it. Wheeler steps back and regards you. After what I've just told you, you want to go to Heritage Hill? I've lost trained soldiers there. Why should I let anyone in? How should I respond? Should I be rational or should I be diplomatic? Diplomatic or rational? I'm confused. No, not confused. I'm conflicted. I want to use a rational response, but I also want to use the diplomatic response. Okay, let's choose number 5 then. Let's be diplomatic. What's the harm in letting me try? Says Arismital. Wheeler says, if you're so eager to rush to your death, I won't stop you. She quietly looks on at the novitiates, and if you're somehow able to put a stop to this, you've got my permission to enter Heritage Hill. I'll send word to the guards at the gate. Arismital says farewell. Wheeler says, any news from Heritage Hill? Arismital says, I'm still looking into it. Wheeler says, report to me immediately once you have something. Wheeler says, if there's nothing else, I must attend to my duties.
Let's see what lies this way.
This is the symbol of Abidon, a colossal smithing hammer imposed over a circular gear. It's smooth and bright with buffing oils.
We just don't have the manpower.
Slow and silent.
Refugees from every corner of the Deerwood. The dozens getting them all riled up about animancy. At this rate, we'll need twice the soldiers to patrol Defiance Bay. Yes? Can I help you with something?
Commander Clivert stands in front of a massive table, studying a map. His expression is set in a grim frown. He opens his mouth to say something to one of his men, but he follows the soldier's gaze over his shoulder to you. Arismital says, why don't you have enough soldiers?
Fleetbreaker Castle. The High Justice has summoned almost half of my novitiates, and more of my justiciars to a keep on the other side of New Hailmar. It's not for me to question the High Justice's orders, but it's left us short-handed. And mark me, we're just a couple sparks away from anarchy.
I don't understand. Why do these Crucible Knights allow a stranger, like Arismital and his group, to enter the keep so freely like this? They have no security at all. Alright, for a second, Commander Cliver looks as if he won't say anything, but he surrenders his resolve with a sigh. How should Arismital respond? Okay, I wanna be on their good side, why not? Slight positive, slight negative, stoic, slight negative. Alright, let's have a slight negative, slight positive. Because it will smoothen our interactions from here on out, I assume. Arismital says, is there any way I can help? I know how to handle myself. Cliver gives you a thin smile. Always refreshing to meet someone who'd rather fix a problem than complain about it. Forge Master Dunstan is working with an Animansis scholar to build what we're calling Forge Knights, warriors that can patrol our streets without suffering fatigue, disobedience or fear. Some agitator throws a rock at them. We don't have to worry about things getting out of hand. He's constructed the armor, but we need the scholar's research. Unfortunately, she hasn't been around the last few times my novitiates have checked. I should have answered the rational... I should have responded with a rational choice, because I want to know what would be Cliver's answer regarding why he could not recruit more soldiers. Commander Cliver says Viana lives with the rest of the Scriveners out in Copper Lane, but I haven't the soldiers to spare at the moment. Go to the Scriveners' dormitory and see if you can find her. When you get the research, just bring it to Dunstan. This is his area of expertise anyway. Once you've brought him the research, he can sell you any arms or armor if you have need. He forges and repairs all of our equipment. You won't find a more capable smith in Defiance Bay. Was there something I can do for you? Arismital says, you're in charge of the Crucible Knights? Cliver says, here in Defiance Bay anyhow. The High Justice is the leader of our order, but is currently stationed at Fleetbreaker Castle. My job is to oversee our forces in Defiance Bay and to keep order for the Duke. Arismital says, tell me about the Knights of the Crucible. Cliver says, no. Cliver crosses his hands behind his back. We're the only professional army in Defiance Bay or in the Deerwood, for that matter. We defended the city in Hadred's day. We've improved our training since then, but Dunriad Row can certify that many of our officers come from good Deerwooden fighting stock. Now we're responsible for patrolling the city and keeping the peace. With so many refugees pouring in from the countryside, that's become more important than ever. Unfortunately, that's earned us enemies, particularly among the dozens and some of the more enterprising families in Defiance Bay. Arismital says, what do the dozens have against you? Cliver snorts. They are demagogues and troublemakers. They forget that Defiance Bay is one of the largest cities in the world and not some frontier outpost. Most of them are mercenaries on a good day and street thugs the rest of the time. Needless to say, they have no patience for law and order. Arismital says, tell me about these enterprising families. Cliver says House Doimanel, namely, they're one of the city's oldest noble families and its largest criminal organization. Their patriarch, Getmar, has been trying to take advantage of the turmoil to expand his operations. We've kept on top of him and he hasn't been too happy about that. I see. Was there something else I can do for you? Arismital says goodbye. Cliver says, have you found that Vailian yet? Dunstan needs her research. Oh, the researcher is a Vailian? Not a dear wooden. This document estimates the flow of refugees over the past 3 months. The figures grow by the week. This map shows the environs surrounding Defiance Bay. Flags mark strategic access points to the city.
Keeping an eye out.
I'll handle this. It's done. I'll have this open in no time. It's done.
I read this before. I don't remember. Okay, you can pause the video if you want to read.
I shall.
Nice and quiet.
This painting shows a row of warriors standing atop the walls of Defiance Bay while ideal ships sail away.
I'll handle this. It's done.
Justiciar says Dunstan may not agree about the Forge Knights, but its chain of command.
Good day, stranger.
What's his name? Penhelm. The young novitiate's armor is recently shined, and his hair is clean and neatly combed. It's hard to believe he's ever seen battle, or that the scarred antique breastplate he wears could possibly be his. Penhelm says, "Are you looking for something?" Arismital says, "Tell me about the Knights of the Crucible." Penhelm says, "We're the primary defenders of Defiance Bay. The oldest founders were the first to rally for their wooden independence." Penhelm waves his hand. "Of course, that's ancient history now. Now we're the most prestigious company of soldiers in the Dierewood. It's a glorious line of work." Penhelm scrunches up his nose. "If you can forget about the barracks, that is." "Was there anything else?" Arismital says, "How does someone become a knight?" Penhelm says, "We don't take just anyone. Our members share soul legacies with the very men and women who defended this land a century and a half ago." Penhelm shifts his weight and cuffs. "Anyhow, Commander Cliver is responsible for initiations, but he rarely accepts foreigners." Arismital says, "Farewell."
The better part of valor. I'll handle this. It's done.
Penhelm's affidavit. Kuren, a cipher duly appointed and employed by Dunried Row, does hereby certify that novitiate A.M. Penhelm has been found to have a soul free of any subversive influences or tainted essence. The scroll is stamped with the seal of Dunried Row and signed by both Penhelm and Kuren. So Kuren, is this the Orlan cipher that Justiciar Aldmar talk about? Where is this Kuren? Edict of Arrest. This edict calls for the arrest of Eorn, whose recent actions have led to the death of a Knight of the Crucible. It requests reporting any information to Justiciar Aldmar. It is signed Commander Cliver. Is this Aeon the guy whom I gave money to back in the catacombs to escape the city? I think so.
Laying low.
This is a record of active patrols and reported crimes in Ondra's gift. The latter far outnumber the former. Interesting. Tongues of flame lick at the forge, hissing with smoke as hot as a dragon's breath. How would you know? Have you experienced a dragon's breath, Aris Metal? Or is it just an expression? Novitiate says wheel us pretty hard on all the novitiates. Why? Commander Cliver himself spars with us sometimes. Tongs, hardies, hammers, fullers, and punch tools hang from the wall. They feel heavy and sturdy, but their flame-darkened surfaces testify to frequent use.
If this is about the breastplates, I already told Cleaver they won't be repaired till next week.
The dwarf bustles between a sweltering forge fire and a work table. He wipes one muscle-knotted arm across his brow. Dunstan. So this is Dunstan. So it's not Cliver, it's Cleaver. Cleaver. Okay. So when the first time I pronounced his name, I was right. I pronounced it Cleaver. But then I changed it to Cliver. Okay. Aris Metal shows Dunstan the pieces of the blade of the Endless Paths. Aris Metal says, I found several fragments of an ancient sword. Do you think you could repair it? Dunstan gives a low whistle. That's a fine blade indeed. Dunstan holds one fragment in his rough hands. Loose iron, special made. Must have been a commission for a champion of some sort. Dunstan hands the shard back to you. A sword of this caliber would have had a specially designed hilt too. It would be a shame to graft anything else onto it. And besides, it'll balance best with all of the original pieces. You find the rest of it, and I'll forge it for you. Something else on your mind? Aris Metal says, what do you do here?
I'm a forge master. I'm a master smith for the Crucible Knights. But the way I see it, I'm also keeping up with our old traditions. The first members of our order were smiths. Nowadays, most everyone's a professional soldier. I suppose it's to be expected, but I think it's important we keep up with our roots, too.
Dunstan hefts a hammer in one hand. Okay, Dunstan said the first members of our orders were smiths. So, one of the NPC Justiciar, or was it a novitiate, said that the Crucible Knights wasn't always a soldiers. They were blacksmiths first. So they were blacksmiths turned soldiers. I see, interesting. Arismital says, Commander Cleaver said you're working with an animancer to build forged knights.
So much for his talk of secrecy. Aye, I'm building Cleaver's metal warriors. He says they're what we need to keep order in Defiance Bay, so...
Dunstan massages his temples, leaving soot streaks on the side of his face. Dunstan shrugs and shakes his head. Arismital says, how are you creating these forged knights? Dunstan says, suits of armor and souls. Cleaver's had me repairing and reinforcing unused armor for months now, just so we can fill them with some poor salt's essence. Dunstan wipes his shining brow. As long as that scholar's girl's got her numbers right, infusing the armor with the soul won't be that hard, but that's not what bothers me. Arismital says, and you need Viana's research to complete them. Dunstan says, she's been working out a method to transfer the souls into the armor. Getting the process just right is critical. Dunstan holds up one hand. Bind the souls too tightly and you get something like those flesh constructs at the sanitarium, barely bright enough to avoid walking into a wall. Dunstan raises his other hand, but bind them too loosely and they'll be too self-aware for their own good, mad killers in metal bodies. Arismital says, do you disagree with Cleaver about the forged knights? Dunstan says, I disagree with him on near about everything, and this is no exception. These forged knights won't solve our manpower problem. He can call them what he wants, but they aren't knights. Sagani says, doesn't take Itumak's nose to smell the trouble here. A group that cannot stand together is headed for a fall. So who's going to fall first, Dunstan or Cleaver? Dunstan folds his arms and looks at the ground, and don't get me started on the other problem. Those souls is bought to power the forged knights. Cleaver keeps telling himself that they came from willing donors, but he knows better. There's a reason you have to buy souls through less than legal channels. We should be clearing those scavengers off the road, not doing business with them. Arismital says enough about the forged knights. Okay, so according to Dunstan, Commander Cleaver is doing something illegal to acquire this... Well, doing something not so legal to acquire these souls. And he's implying that... and he's implying that the souls did not consent to what Cleaver is doing, or Cleaver did not get at least the last owner of the soul. I mean, the last body of the soul's consent. Interesting. Okay. My grammar is very bad. It's hard for me to form sentences in English. What I meant to say was, if the soul is already in the form of a soul, that means the soul has already left the body, right? So what I meant was, Dunstan is implying that Commander Cleaver did not ask the soul its consent when it was still inhabiting its last body. Arismital says, enough about the forged knights. Dunstan says, if only. Arismital says, tell me about the knights.
We were all smiths back in Hodred's day, though I'm about the only one here who still gets his hands dirty. We're a fearsome fighting force, though these days I think Cleaver takes more pride in our parade formations.
Dunstan says, he thinks himself a progressive man, but is obsessed with soul lineages and connections to the Deerwood's heroes of old. Dunstan picks up his hammer again. Other than Dunriedero, who really knows about any of that though? Arismital says goodbye. So I get the feeling that the Dunstan disagree with how the Crucible Knights must background check its members for their past lives. Interesting. The blades are razor sharp.
I'll see what I can find.
I'll handle this. It's done. I'll have this open in no time. Done. I'll handle this. It's done. I'll handle this. It's done.
Thick grime cakes the bottom of the tub. The towel hanging from the side gives off an awful stench. Ooh, how many asses did this towel go through? Okay, so I'm very I'm in a bad mood right now. I paused my recording and I forgot to unpause the recording. Well, nothing much really happened between now and the last time I record. From the Crucible Knights Keep, I walk northwest towards Heritage Hill, and then I enter this place. It's called the Ducal Palace. And then, yeah, I'm going to. So what I did earlier. So what I did during the time I forgot to unpause the recording is that I speak to Sidley, and then I speak to Firga. I've already wasted. I don't feel like repeating the text by reading it, so I'm going to let you pause the video yourself if you want to read the texts. Because I don't feel like reading again. Sorry about that.
Indeed.
Light, flame, and sound. We'll keep to ourselves.
A stone figure of a warrior gazes toward her raised hand. It's empty, but the palm and fingers are blackened.
Welcome.
Arismetal says, what should I say? Arismetal says you hold part of a weapon designed by a god. The very existence of such a thing should fill you with awe. Irga's face relaxes, and her eyes drink in the glowing thing in her hands. So it does. It's not an answer, but it has meaning. Irga closes her hands around the stone and tucks it away. I'd forgotten how important that is. Duran says, meaning. She has no idea what it means, what it represents, what went into it. As Virga looks at the statue, flame springs from its raised hand. One of the things I have always loved about Magran is her affinity for fire, how it grows and spreads. You feel the warmth from the fire rippling across the room. You've given me what I need. I'll make sure to give the people of Defiance Bay the support they need. Defiance Bay extraordinarily positive. Virga says, now let me give you something you might need. Disappears, returning quickly, with something in her hands. A weapon worthy of the goddess herself. Please accept it as thanks for your service to Magran and to me. Alice Mittal says, thank you. Farewell. So it seems that Durance is not impressed by Virga's faith. Interesting.
Good day, stranger.
Virga says, thanks to you, the sacred fires continue to burn around the city. Alice Mittal says, are you still having the visions of the falls? Virga says, thankfully no. Now that my faith has been restored, my dreams have been peaceful. Virga says, something else? Smith says, goodbye. Noble says, when will something be done about Heritage Hill, I wonder? Come on, show some emotion. You can't go through life that way. You may not enter the audience chamber while council is in session without an invitation. Move along now. Okay, I mentioned before, if you want to read books and the text, you can pause the video or you can take note of the title and search the internet. Its content. I will give you some time to pause the video, so I'm not going to scroll too quick. So you have time to pause and then continue.
Hail and well met.
Records keeper, a taciturn man with a graying hair, pores over a tome he's just withdrawn from one of the shelves. He glances up at you with baggy eyes. Yes, is there something I can pull for you? Arismital says. I'm looking for militia records from the time of the Saints' War, trying to find out what happened to someone. Oh, I remember. This is for Eder. He wants to know what happened to his brother during the war. The man clears his throat. We've had a number of inquiries about such information. I'm afraid we've had to bar access to the public. Seems there are still quite a number of folk in Deerwood who bear ill will toward Reat Serans. It would be irresponsible to surrender their names to just anyone. Many came to settle here as refugees. Perhaps if you were more established in Defiance Bay, things would be different, but I have no reason to suspect you to be any different from the others. Perception 17. There is something peculiar about the records keeper's inflection. The differences are subtle, but it does not sound like any native Deerwooden you've heard. Ah, interesting. Is he supposed to be a Reat Seran himself? Perception 19. As the records keeper gestures, you also notice faint scars on both his wrists where shackles once clasped. Arismital is too perceptive for your act, dear records keeper. Arismital says, I am a foreigner myself. I bear no grudges against Reat Seras. He looks you in the eyes, squinting as if to see you more clearly. He says, it is an unfortunate state of things when outsiders are easier to trust than one's own people. Eder says, doesn't that just say it all? Records keeper looks up at the shelf and withdraws a thick volume, shifting a layer of dust aside with his hand. He says, the records are in the front, the inventories of the dead in back. He passes it into Eder's outstretched hands. I will not permit any copying from these pages. Do I make myself understood? Eder leaves through the book for some time anxiously, running his thick farmhand's fingers over page after page of names. At last his hand stops, his fingers just below one name. Why is the narration make note of Eder's thick farmhand's finger? Is this sexual innuendo? I'm not sure. Okay.
Woden Tailish, Died 18 Majaverno, 2808. Third Battle of Cleaban Relog. Blazing Glonfather names, I swear. Rayet Saris?
Eder stops short, his eyes bulging. They scan back and forth over and over.
I'll be the effigy. He fought for Rayet Saris. Why'd he fight for Rayet Saris?
Eder stares at the page, his jaw agape, before suddenly looking up at you. Oh, what should I tell him? Should I? I'm not going to be cruel. Eder is my companion. Look, Eder is my companion. There is no time for diplomacy here. I mean, I'm not trying to be blunt towards Eder, but he's my companion. And if I am to gain his trust, I have to be honest with him. So I'm going to choose option number 1. If this is not Eder, if this is not my companion, I would choose the diplomatic option. But I want my companion to be able to trust me. So I'm going to choose option number 1. I don't know. Eder, I'm sorry. Eder says, either do I. But he had to have had a good reason. That's just who he was.
We gotta go there. That battlefield. Clea, the one I said. I don't know how else I'm gonna make sense of all this. I gotta see what he saw.
Eder. A strange look comes over Eder. Okay, we'll go there, Eder. Don't worry.
And who knows, maybe his spirit will even be there and you can have one of your weird talks with him. I mean, worth trying, right?
Arismital says, I will help you any way I can, my dear Eder.
I appreciate that. I wish I could say you won't regret it, but you certainly might.
Not the first time. Records keeper. This man busies his slender hands filling scored books and rows of dusty parchment, according to some obscure yet deliberate scheme.
Politics, infighting, greed, and a shrine to Margaret as well. Her clergy belongs there.
Alright, Durans. Very informative. The stones of this ancient tower have been blackened by centuries-old fires. Surrounded by a patch of wildflowers, it looks like a memorial.
Slow and silent.
Heritage Hill, here we come. Just turn around, stranger. Heritage Hill closed. Don't worry, I'm here. I'm here for a mission given to me by, was it Wheeler or Commander Cleaver? Ah, it was Wheeler, I think. The woman in the training room. The woman who is in charge of training and giving missions to initiates, I think.
Welcome.
The guard holds up a palm. Sorry, but this district's closed by order of the Duke himself. Arismi tells us what's going on in there. Both guards look at each other. Look, even if I were allowed to tell you, I don't rightly know. All I can say is, whatever it is, started about 2 months ago. The guards that close the gate talk of something unnatural that still wakes them in the middle of the night. I don't want to know any more than that. Was there anything else? Arismital says, Viola sent me. I'm looking into the missing guards. Justiciar says, so you're the one she sent word about. The guard looks you up and down, frowning. I was expecting her to send in a whole squad of justiciars. Not that I'm volunteering, mind you. I'll have the gate open immediately, just watch your step. I'm afraid we cannot send anyone after you if this goes badly. Arismital says, any ideas what might have happened to the other guards? Justiciar says, none. And I have no desire to find out, if you catch my meaning. The ones that disappeared weren't the deserting type. The worst part is, both times the watch disappeared, the next rotation found the gate unlocked. I don't know whether they went in or whether something got out, but if it's the latter, refugees are going to be the least of our problems. Arismital says, heard or seen anything unusual? Wait, if the next rotation found the gate unlocked, that means the guards that we're talking to right now, they are not safe. They are not safe standing guard here. Why is the Crucible Knights keep ordering their justiciars to stand guard knowing it's not safe to be there? I know it's part of the justiciar's job to risk their lives to defend a city, but knowing that some place is dangerous to the justiciars and then keep sending them there without trying to assess the situation, or at least try to figure out the best way for the justiciars to protect the gate while at the same time minimizing their risk or maximizing their own safety. It's like the Crucible Knights keep sending their men to certain death with no chance of preventing that death, with no mechanism to defend themselves. I don't understand why the Crucible Knights, or at least the leadership, do this. And they say they are undermanned, and yet they're treating their people like expendables. I'm not saying that if they have a lot of men that they should treat their men as expendables. But you know what I mean, what I'm trying to say. Arismital says, heard or seen anything unusual? Justiciar says, friend, I try to see and hear as little as possible. One of the women on the last watch said she heard someone shouting from the northeast part of the district. Something that sounded like an order, but I don't see how anyone could survive in there. Once or twice I've caught a glimpse of something moving on the other side of the gate. The guard shudders. I'd just soon forget it. Arismital says farewell. Don't open it immediately, you fool. Wait until we're ready, asshole.
Hail, traveler.
Justiciar says, I see the stench hasn't driven you away yet. Of course not. I'm used to smelling my own stench. Justiciar says, the dead Rome Heritage Hill. I thought it was cannibalism. Now it's the dead? I don't relish the thought of you populating the hill with more of those things. Hey, wish us luck. Don't write us off. Yet. They say whatever struck down all those people sucked the life even from the grass and trees. The dead Rome Heritage Hill.
There's something...
Sagani says, there's something unnatural about this place, and yep, I see a skeleton holding a weapon.
There's something unnatural about this place.
Indeed.
Something twitches and shambles in the darkness between the slats. A rancid draft creeps from the house.
I'm here.
The guard says a female guard heard a scream from the northeast. Let's check it out then.
Yes? Indeed.
These vaults have already been pried open.
I'll handle this. It's done.
Nice and quiet.
I'll have this open in no time. It's done.
And what does the flame reveal?
The cross-hatched claw marks score this vault. The inscription underneath the family crest reads Baltas.
The better part of valor.
A small plaque at the base reads Freedom above all, Atmeth Hadrets. Unlocking this will require the proper key. Wait, no. Enthralled Justiciar, what? Lyra. A woman turns when you enter. Her wide, pale eyes shine like lamps in the darkness of the tomb. 4 crucible knights hover nearby, their glazed expressions fixed on her. Reinforcements at last. I hope you've come armed, because we've got to get out of here. Something about her seems hazy and insubstantial, even in the darkness of the tomb. Arismital says, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but you're already dead. Will that provoke? I don't want to provoke, I want to inquire, not to provoke. Arismital says, who are you? Leira says, the commander of the Crucible Knights. I lead the militia station around Heritage Hill. Securing this district became my responsibility when this, whatever it is, happened. Arismital says, what are you doing here? Leira says, I came searching for survivors. Only too late did I realize there weren't any. She brings a hand to her head. Her skin is practically translucent. I found myself surrounded by those creatures outside, and I had to seek refuge. Funny, isn't it? To hide from the dead in a building that was meant to hold them in the first place. Leira pats the wall of the tomb. Anyway, I've been waiting for more reinforcements. Arismital says, what are these soldiers doing here? Leira looks at them, but either she doesn't notice their distant gazes and the way they sway on their feet, or she thinks nothing of it. They're under my command, of course. They heard my call, and we've been waiting on a few more to help us fight our way out of here. Arismital says, how did they manage to hear you in this tomb? Leira's eyes flash. There's something unnatural about the way she hovers, watching you. I hope you're not questioning my command. I'm warning you, I don't tolerate insubordination. Arismital says, not at all. Leira says, then if you've caught your breath, we should move out. Arismital says, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but you're already dead. Omae wa mo shindeiru? Leira's eyes grow cold and hard. You'd better explain yourself, and quickly. Arismital says, you're a ghost, and you've been luring Crucible Knights to their deaths. Leira freezes in place, hovering in the air. No, that's impossible. It's only been... It can't be. The other side of the tomb is visible through her gaping mouth. She looks at her hands seemingly for the first time, turning them in front of her. As her eyes and her mouth widen in horror, she turns to you. What have you done to me? Her expression hardens, and the Crucible Knights behind her stir. Novitiates attack. Oh my, I don't want to have to fight the Novitiates. Can I just target her specifically?
It's done.
Margaren's fire casts light in dark places.
I'll have this open in no time.
Light, flame, and sound. We'll keep to ourselves.
This mausoleum has been sealed tight.
I'm on the trail. Slow and silent.
Heritage Hill Cemetery.
Light, flame, and sound. We'll keep to ourselves.
The massive stone door of the tower is sealed, and there doesn't appear to be any way of opening it. Speak the words you learn from the leaden key acolyte. You hear rumbles and clanks from hidden tumblers as the door unlocks. Continue. Wait, I haven't finished exploring yet. I'll go back.
Margaret's fire casts light in dark places.
From here, the mansion appears deserted. Valtas Manor. Wait, where did I read that name before? Valtas. Was it in the cemetery? Let's go back. I think I read that name before in the cemetery. Was it the statue? Okay, this one. Family crest reads Valtas.
Let's keep quiet.
Ikantha's house?
I'll take a look.
The stale loaves are as hard as rocks. Left out to rot, these potatoes are covered with wet, rank-smelling bruises. Ikantha, a woman bends over a roaring fireplace, feeding a splintered chair leg into it. As you get closer, you notice something unnatural about her. A certain pallor to her skin, a lack of movement beneath her flesh, even while her arms execute deft, efficient movements, and then you see the puckered flesh, ragged and bloodless, over her heart. This is what the acolytes mentioned before, right? A woman with a scar on her heart. And then the acolytes said, don't let the man meet the woman. Okay, so whatever happened, remember, don't let a man and a woman meet up, whoever they are. Adair says, we should think about just killing her first and having you talk to the body.
It's rude to stare, you know. Don't worry. I've no mind to start anything with you. After all, I've stayed in such good shape by choosing my meals carefully.
Ikantha laughs to herself. Aris Mittal says, I'm looking for Ikantha. Wait, Aris, why are you looking for Ikantha? You have no mission to look for someone named Ikantha. Why are you suddenly want to look for Ikantha? Did I miss some conversation? Or is this okay, never mind. Aris Mittal says, who are you?
A survivor, by the grace of my own careful preparations. When I heard the claws scrabbling at the door outside, I took care of matters myself. And since then, I've been careful to keep myself fresh and fed.
Ikantha gives you a hollow laugh. She traces a finger over the jagged hole in her chest. Jagged hole in her chest? What? Arismital says, do you know what happened here?
An incredible act of animancy, of a magnitude this part of the world likely hasn't seen since Engwithan times. Someone found something very powerful and ancient, and I'd bet my own preserved life it wasn't Aldhelm or his lovely assistant.
Kantha's dead eyes glaze over with wonder. So Animancy did this? Maybe the dozens were right. They are against Animancy. Arismital says, I still don't understand why this district is full of walking corpses. Ikantha spins from the fire to face you, because someone found a way to tether their souls to their bodies, don't you see? Ikantha taps her skull with an impatient finger, so when the heart stops beating and the blood stops flowing, their bodies still animate, and with a newfound hunger, Ikantha turns back to the fire. Those that can feed it with living flesh and essence stay strong and sharp. Those that can't degenerate quickly. Arismital says, tell me what you know about this Aldhelm. Ikantha says, his name barely merits repeating. He's a charlatan who liked to dig up pretty artifacts and call himself a scholar. The pity with Animancy these days is that just about anyone can claim to be an expert. Arismital says, I see. Ikantha smirks. I truly doubt that. You're right. Arismital says, I saw you in a vision. There's something you need to do for me.
Believe me, I've heard that line before.
Ikantha laughs again. Arismital says, I'm looking for Ikantha.
And what would you want with her?
Ikantha watches you with unblinking eyes. I don't know. The acolyte just told me not to let the man meet with you, and I don't know who is this man.
You return. What have you come seeking this time?
Arismital says, it's time for me to get going.